Okay, live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News, India's voice to the world. I'm Lipakshi Khurana. Coming up in the next hour. Big boost awaits already strong bilateral ties as US Vice President J.D. Vance arrives with family in Delhi today to meet Prime Minister Narendra Modi in the evening. Trump hopes for a Russia-Ukraine peace deal this week, promises big business for both sides if the truce is inked. Ukraine asks Russia to halt strikes on civilian targets for 30 days. US Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth alleged to have shared March 15th Yemen strike plans in one more message group chat that included his wife, brother and personal lawyer. Earlier leaks saw heads rolling at the Pentagon. Israel says professional failures led to killings of 15 Gaza paramedics and other rescue workers. Deputy commander fired for providing inaccurate report. El Salvador suggests prisoner swap with Maduro for Venezuela deportees, proposes swapping 252 US deported Venezuelans for equal number of political prisoners held by Venezuela. And on to the top story this hour, US Vice President J.D. Vance begins his 4-day official visit to India from today. He's accompanied by his wife Usha Vance, their children and senior members of the US administration. This is Vice President Vance's first visit to India. Vance received a ceremonial guard of honor up on arrival. During the visit, he will be meeting with Prime Minister Narendra Modi today evening. The Vice President and his delegation will have other engagements in Delhi as well and are also scheduled to visit Jaipur and Agra. Also, the visit will provide an opportunity for both sides to review the progress in bilateral relations and the implementation of the outcomes of the India-US joint statement issued on 13th of February 2025 during the visit of the Prime Minister to the US. Also, the two sides will exchange views on regional and global developments of mutual interest. And for more on the visit, we have Jessica Taneja joining us from New Delhi. Well, Jessica, this is J.D. Vance's first visit to India, as we know, as both the countries seek to unlock the economic opportunities and negotiate a bilateral trade deal. What's on the agenda?
Well, this, of course, is the first visit by Vice President J.D. Vance along with his family to New Delhi. He just arrived a short while ago where I am, and we've seen the ceremonial welcome accorded to him as he arrived and stepped into New Delhi. From there on, the engagements throughout the day, of course, will continue to give us a sense of how the relationship between the United States and India has been continuing to move forward and gain momentum over the years, especially in the last few months with the new administration in place. And this certainly a significant visit by the Vice President, and also shows the close ties between the two countries in a sense. And if you look at how this visit is being viewed, well, it is a strategically important visit since it's the visit of the Vice President along with a few officials. And we've seen very high-profile visits from the United States in the recent past. You recall the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, was also here in New Delhi to attend a conference, and she delivered a keynote there as well. Enlisting how the relationship between the United States and India has become important, increasingly important, not just in the context of the Asia Pacific, but also as an important trading partner. You see the two countries have a bilateral trade of around $190 billion, and they set a target to make that into $500 billion by 2030. So certainly the relationship is moving in the direction that the two sides have been looking at. But of course, there's a bilateral trade agreement that will be decided upon before this year ends, and of course the discussions on tariff and non-tariff barriers and ease out the economic tensions or strains, if any, in the coming few months.
All right, Jessica, also amid the rapidly intensifying trade war between US and China, the US Vice President's visit to India is being seen as an important diplomatic mission by the Trump administration.
Yes, certainly. It's an important diplomatic mission funded by the Trump administration. We recall the Prime Minister visited the United States. He was in Washington, D.C. in February, right after attending the AI summit in Paris. An important event, that unfolded in the United States as well, meeting President Donald Trump for the first time. And perhaps this has shown the kind of ties the two countries enjoy, where the frequent meetings, and of course you also saw the trade delegation that was in India a few weeks ago for negotiations on a potential bilateral trade agreement. So the two sides have been exploring avenues when it comes to expanding their bilateral ties, but of course the trade deficit that is there in this sort of proportion seems to have taken notice, and something the United States is addressing, not just with India, but all its trading partners across the world.
Right. Also, the US is also India's largest trading partner, with bilateral trade valued at around $190 billion until recently. Will J.D. Vance's visit to India strengthen that Indo-US significance there? Jessica, are you there with us? I think we've lost Jessica right now. We'll try and contact her later in the bulletin. Right now, let's move on to Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who will embark on a two-day visit to Saudi Arabia on Tuesday. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will embark on a two-day visit to Saudi Arabia on Tuesday at the invitation of the Crown Prince and Prime Minister of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, Prince Mohammed bin Salman. Prime Minister Modi will be welcomed in Jeddah by Crown Prince himself. The two leaders will co-chair the second meeting of the Strategic Partnership Council. Also, several MOUs between the two sides are expected to be signed after the bilateral talks. Let's take a look.
Bolstering defence and economic ties will be the key focus for Prime Minister Modi when he comes calling on Saudi Arabia on Tuesday. Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman will receive Prime Minister Modi here in Jeddah, and the two leaders will co-chair the second meeting of the Indo-Saudi Arabia Strategic Partnership Council. This will be Prime Minister Modi's first visit to the kingdom during his third term as Prime Minister, though the Prime Minister has previously visited Saudi Arabia twice in 2016 and 2019.
The visit is important also on account of the obvious significance of Saudi Arabia as a strategic partner for India. You're aware of the salience that this relationship has for India's energy security. Saudi Arabia hosts a very large Indian expatriate community, possibly the second largest expatriate community of its kind anywhere in the world. Saudi Arabia is a leading voice in the Islamic world and is increasingly playing an important role in regional developments. And therefore, from all of these perspectives, the visit provides an opportunity to build on the already strong relations with this strategic partner.
The visit would see signing of several memoranda of understanding between the two sides in various sectors, including energy.
We signed the memorandum of understanding in the field of electrical interconnections and green and clean hydrogen and supply chains. The electricity grid interconnection MOU is something on which work is expected to start imminently in terms of a study to lay out the feasibility of this connection, but we see the possible agreements between the two countries on clean hydrogen as another very important trade-linked initiative under this.
Apart from the bilateral aspect of the relationship, the Russia-Ukraine war will be a significant area of discussion between the two leaders. The ongoing tensions in West Asia and concerns over Houthi attacks on commercial shipping are likely to figure in the talks. During his two-day visit, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will also visit a factory in Jeddah and interact with Indian workers there. Given that Saudi Arabia is home to a 2.7 million strong Indian diaspora, the talks would focus on how to increase the participation of Indian workers in Saudi Arabia's economy. The Prime Minister shall also be visiting a factory to meet Indian workers here. The talks would also focus on how Saudi Arabia could increase the quota of Hajj pilgrims from India. With my colleague Neeraj Singh and cameraman Saurabh Bakshi, this is Amritpal Singh for DD India in Jeddah.
Well, during the visit to Saudi Arabia, Prime Minister Modi will hold talks with Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, covering various areas including defense, partnership, energy cooperation and issues related to regional and global conflict resolution efforts. DD India's Amritpal Singh spoke to Indian Ambassador to Saudi Arabia, Dr. Sohail Ajaz Khan, about the significance of the visit.
He is arriving in Jeddah on Tuesday for a two-day visit to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. He shall be holding extensive talks with Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman on various aspects of the bilateral relationship. To talk about the significance of this visit, I have with me the Indian Ambassador to Saudi Arabia, Dr. Sohail Ajaz Khan. Ambassador Khan, thank you very much for speaking to DD India. What is the significance of the Prime Minister's visit and why this visit now?
Our relationship with Saudi Arabia in last few years have really strengthened and diversified. Our strategic partnership now is on a very, very solid footing. And during this visit, Honorable Prime Minister and his counterpart, His Royal Highness Crown Prince, will be chairing the second leaders level meeting of the Strategic Partnership Council, and under it a host of issues will be discussed on the economic partnership, on the defense partnership, on the political relationship. So we are expecting a very fruitful visit, very good discussions and very important outcomes.
Ambassador, you talk about the outcomes. Several MOUs are expected to be signed during this visit. Could we expect something on green energy?
Both the sides are working on a feasibility study to connect the electrical grids between India and Saudi Arabia. Basically, the idea is to utilize the opportunities of the renewable energy, green energy, which is available in both the countries for the exchange of electricity. So that is a very ambitious program. That is an ongoing program.
My final question to you, Ambassador Khan. Prime Minister shall also be visiting a dates factory where Indian workers are working. There is a huge diaspora, Indian diaspora working in Saudi Arabia. How does that augur, or where does that fit in the bilateral relationship? What is their contribution? Where do you see this going?
The Indian community in Saudi Arabia is growing. It is very strong component of our bilateral relationship. It is actually a living bridge between the two countries because it really connects India and Saudi Arabia in a variety of ways. Our community has participated in the development of Saudi Arabia. So they have made huge contributions. It really plays a very important role in the bilateral relations.
So the Indian diaspora plays an important role in the bilateral relationship, and that's why the Prime Minister, even the last time around he was in Riyadh, took time off to meet with the Indian workers. He shall be doing the same here this time around, given the fact that Saudi Arabia has the second largest Indian diaspora outside India, residing here, working here, that contributes to the economies of both nations. And therefore, the world would be closely looking at how what the two leaders discuss and what the outcome of this significant visit would be. With cameraman S. Jaishankar, this is Amritpal Singh for DD India in Jeddah.
And moving on, in a recent update, Jammu and Kashmir's Ramban district has experienced a devastating cloudburst on Sunday, which has claimed 3 lives till now, as per the officials. As of now, rescue operations are underway as authorities search for survivors. Heavy rains have triggered flash floods in Dharamkund village, and more than 40 houses were damaged, but 10 are completely destroyed. Well, despite ongoing rainfall and repeated cloudbursts, police team managed to rescue over 100 residents from affected regions. Several vehicles were also swept away by an overflowing stream, adding to the mounting damage across the region. All schools and colleges across Ramban would remain shut on Monday, April 21st, because of the inclement weather conditions. The Jammu and Kashmir District Administration issued a red alert in Riyasi amid rising water levels in River Chenab. Also, in response to the cloudburst and intense rainfall that struck the Ramban district, the Indian Army launched swift and coordinated relief and restoration operations to assist the affected civilians and restore connectivity along the National Highway 44. Quick reaction teams were rapidly mobilized to provide relief to stranded travelers. Army personnel extended support by distributing tea and hot meals, offering temporary shelter and providing basic medical aid to those in need. Also, 8 Army columns are currently on standby at key locations to assist further if required. Meanwhile, JCBs and heavy equipment from civilian construction firms are carrying out clearing operations along the obstructed highway. Also, the Indian Army remains steadfast in its commitment to stand by the citizens of Jammu and Kashmir in times of crisis, ensuring safety, support and timely assistance. Meanwhile, Union Minister Jitendra Singh praised the Indian Army for their commendable job and for their timely assistance, which played a crucial role in providing relief to the local population. Sharing on X, he wrote, and I quote, "In the aftermath of the torrential hailstorm yesterday, while the district administration team led by energetic DC Basir Haq has been commendably on the job since last night, it is time also to acknowledge and thank the Indian Army for their timely assistance, which played a crucial role in providing relief to the local population. I feel gratified to inform that the Army has set up medical aid camps, distributed essential medicines and ensured access to food and clean drinking water. They've also made special arrangements for tea and basic meals for the affected population. Needless to say, Indian Army at the service of the nation not only during the wartime, but equally as much during peacetime crisis." Unquote. And today, on the occasion of the 17th Civil Services Day, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will address the civil servants at around 11 a.m. IST in New Delhi. Prime Minister Modi will also confer the Prime Minister's Award for Excellence in Public Administration. Prime Minister has always encouraged civil servants across India to dedicate themselves to the cause of the citizens, be committed to public service and strive towards excellence in their work. This year, 16 awards will be given by the Prime Minister in the categories of Holistic Development of Districts, Aspirational Blocks Program and Innovation to the civil servants. They will be recognized for work done for the welfare of common citizens through this. And an update on Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman's US visit again. News coming in that Sitharaman has interacted with the Indian diaspora in San Francisco, USA, her first engagement of this visit. She stressed on connecting with Indian diaspora across the globe, citing Prime Minister Narendra Modi's vision of making it a part of his every overseas visit to strike the connect, because he thinks that it is important that India connects with each one of them.
Every one of his overseas visit to connect with the Indian diaspora, because he thinks that's the most important thing, that India should be able to stand up with sense of pride and connect with each one of you all who are in whichever part of the world doing your best to contribute to the world and therefore stand out as an example.
Well, Sitharaman said that India is now the fastest growing economy. She said that the IMF and the World Bank are today recognizing the immense potential that exists in India.
Keeping growth low, keeping trade low, but keeping inflation high in some places. And as a result, in some other places, people think, oh, is there going to be a recession? But in this environment, if India is recognized for its potential, the economic strength that it has, if you high-end achievers in this area see the potential to partner with India, individually or commercially, cooperation to cooperation, you benefit, United States of America benefits, India benefits, Indian businesses benefit, and together we are going to have to lift the global trade and growth. I think that's a very big contribution Indian diaspora here can do.
Well, the Indian Air Force participated in the exercise Desert Flag 10, a premier multinational air combat exercise in the United Arab Emirates. The IAF is fielding MiG-29 and Jaguar aircraft in the exercise. Exercise Desert Flag is a multinational exercise being hosted by the UAE Air Force, with participating contingents from the Air Forces of Australia, Bahrain, France, Germany, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Republic of Korea, Turkey, UAE, United Kingdom and the United States, in addition to the Indian Air Force. Well, the exercise is scheduled to take place between 21st of April to 8th of May 2025. The aim of the exercise is to undertake complex and diverse fighter engagements with exchange of operational knowledge and best practices with some of the most capable air forces in the world. And now let's take a look at other stories making news today. The Supreme Court is slated to hear on Monday a public interest litigation seeking the formation of a 5-member Judicial Inquiry Commission under the chairmanship of a retired Apex Court judge to inquire into the violent protest erupted against the Waqf Amendment Act 2025 in West Bengal's Murshidabad. As envisioned by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Project Cheetah has now expanded to the Gandhi Sagar Wildlife Sanctuary. 2 cheetahs were released into the Gandhi Sagar Wildlife Sanctuary in Mandsaur district of Madhya Pradesh by Chief Minister Mohan Yadav on Sunday. The cheetahs, 6-year-old males named Pavak and Prabhash, had been brought from South Africa in February 2023 and were stationed at the Kuno National Park before being moved to the sanctuary. Devotees throw burning palm fronds at each other as part of the annual festival Tudedara or Agni Keli at the Katil Sri Durga Parmeshwari temple in Mangaluru, Karnataka. The Tudedara ritual marks the culmination of the temple's annual festival. Manali, a popular tourist destination in Himachal Pradesh, known for its cool climate and thrilling adventure opportunities. Tourists visit Manali to escape the heat of the plains, enjoying scenic beauty and engage in activities like trekking, paragliding and exploring the natural attractions there. And still to come, DD India News Hour. New US airstrikes in Sana'a kill at least 12 people, further intensifying US-Yemen tensions. Israel cancels visas for 27 French left-wing lawmakers and local officials ahead of the visit to Israel and the Palestinian territories. And stay with us for a sneak peek into the lives of the Arctic chuklas across 18 species.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked, we just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lipakshi Khurana. Time now for a quick recap of the headlines. Big boost awaits already strong bilateral ties as US Vice President J.D. Vance arrives with family in Delhi today to meet Prime Minister Narendra Modi in the evening. Trump hopes for a Russia-Ukraine peace deal this week, promises big business for both sides if a truce is inked. Ukraine asked Russia to halt strikes on civilian targets for 30 days. US Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth alleged to have shared March 15th Yemen strike plans in one more message group chat that included his wife, brother, and personal lawyer. Earlier leaks saw heads rolling at the Pentagon. Israel says professional failures led to killings of 15 Gaza paramedics and other rescue workers. Deputy commander fired for providing inaccurate report. El Salvador suggests prisoner swap with Maduro for Venezuela deportees, proposes swapping 252 US deported Venezuelans for equal number of political prisoners held by Venezuela. And moving on, hoping for peace, Ukraine has proposed that Russia abandon drone and missile strikes on civilian infrastructure for at least 30 days. US President Trump came out with a new startling announcement on Sunday regarding the Russia-Ukraine peace deal. Earlier on Friday, Trump had said that he would end US efforts to halt the Russia-Ukraine conflict unless the two sides moved towards an accord. United States Special Envoy to Russia and Ukraine, General Keith Kellogg, said on Sunday that President Donald Trump's team will return to London this week for ceasefire talks on Ukraine, but a NATO membership was off the table. Kellogg also said that a minerals deal was part of the solution for a comprehensive ceasefire and permanent peace deal. Also, the apparent failure to observe even an Easter ceasefire shows how hard it will be for US President Donald Trump to clinch a lasting peace deal. On social media, Ukraine's Zelensky proposed a halt to any strikes using long-range drones and missiles on civilian infrastructure for a period of at least 30 days. He made a similar proposal for 30 days peace at the beginning of the weekend in response to Putin's announcement of the Easter truce. Earlier, Russia and Ukraine blamed each other on Sunday for breaking a one-day Easter ceasefire declared by President Vladimir Putin, with both sides accusing the other of hundreds of attacks and the Kremlin saying there was no order for an extension. Russia, which has called the ceasefire talks difficult, accused Ukraine of breaching the truce. Moscow said it had repelled Ukrainian assaults and accused Kyiv of launching hundreds of drones and shells, causing civilian casualties. And Akshay Dongre joins us for more on this. Well, Akshay, with Trump again shifting the stance on the Russia-Ukraine peace talks and hoping Russia will make a deal this week, again a U-turn. What can be expected out there?
Well, Lipakshi, that's the problem with even the announcement that has come in that the NATO deal is off the table. And that's why it's hard to believe that anything that US is doing as far as at the top level will be taken seriously by the world, especially the European leaders, the Ukrainian leadership, even the Russian leadership as well, because there are high stakes involved as far as this conflict is concerned, and the kind of shifting of stance that we are seeing at the topmost level in the US administration is not giving a good sign, because US has been considered a serious a country, a serious power that could have in fact brought about a ceasefire eventually, gradually. However, with these kind of changing of stance and extreme reactions that are coming in, it's really difficult to say that what is going to happen, because even if the US side is saying that the NATO membership was off the table, it has said it unilaterally, and had it come after an intense negotiation with the NATO countries, it would have been long lasting. However, there is also a rule in NATO that even if one member state has a problem with another new country joining in with a new membership, then the new member cannot join NATO. So essentially, if US sticks to its stand, that is in future as well, then essentially the NATO deal is off the table for Ukraine at least. That was in fact the major cause for this war that's happening even right now.
Surely, NATO deal definitely looks off the table. On the other hand, both sides, as we know, are blaming each other for Easter ceasefire breach too. Can we see any positive future out there?
Well, not immediately, Lipakshi, because despite the attempts and despite the rhetoric that has been created by the Trump administration, the trust deficit is too wide, because any kind of ceasefire, the Ukrainian side thinks that the Russians will use to their advantage and move while they are observing a ceasefire and are not attacking the other side. Similarly, the Russian side also believes that the Ukrainians will use the ceasefire to gain into the areas where Russia has already occupied the territory after the war. So clearly that remains the biggest problem. Also, the problem remains that both the sides are sticking to their original stances as well, where the Ukrainian leadership is expecting that the region of Donetsk, Donbass, even the Crimea region that has been occupied by Russia now has to return to Russia, while the Russian side will demand that it keeps it and it remains in control of these territories.
All right, absolutely hard to clinch a lasting peace deal there. Thank you so much, Akshay, for all those insights. And moving on, China on Monday hit out at other countries making trade deals with the United States at Beijing's expense, promising countermeasures against those who appease Washington in the blistering tariff war. A number of countries are now engaged in negotiations with the United States to lower tariffs, parallel to Washington's full trade war against top U.S. economic rival China. But Beijing warned nations on Monday not to seek a deal with the United States that compromised its interest. In a statement, a spokesperson for Beijing's Commerce Ministry said appeasement will not bring peace and compromise will not be respected, while the rest of the world has been slapped with a blanket 10% tariff. China faces levies of up to 145% on many products. Beijing has responded with duties of 125% on U.S. goods. Also, U.S. President Donald Trump said Thursday that the United States was in talks with China on tariffs, adding that he was confident the world's largest economies could make a deal to end the bitter trade war. But China has vowed to fight a trade war to the end and has not confirmed that it is in talks with Washington, though it has called for a dialogue. And South Korea's acting president, Han Duck-soo, said on Monday he expected trade talks with the United States this week to be start of a meaningful cooperation. Han said that South Korea's ministers of finance and industry are meeting U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and USTR Representative Jameson Greer on April 24th. He, however, noted that negotiations may not be easy. Well, Trump slapped 25% tariffs on South Korea this month, which were later suspended for 3 months. Meanwhile, Seoul proposed last week on Friday a supplementary $8.60 billion budget to counter heightening risks to economic growth in the face of a global trade war and domestic political uncertainty. And South Korea's former president Yoon Suk-yeol appeared in court on Monday for the second hearing of his criminal trial to defend himself against insurrection charges over his short-lived declaration of martial law. Yoon was formally stripped of office earlier this month after being impeached and suspended by lawmakers over his December 3rd attempt to subvert civilian rule, which saw armed soldiers deployed to the parliament. If found guilty, Yoon would become the third South Korean president to be found guilty of insurrection after two military leaders in connection with the 1979 coup. Also separately, last week, police attempted to raid Yoon's former presidential office and his security detail as part of a probe into alleged obstruction of an arrest warrant execution, but failed after presidential security denied them permission to enter the residence. Yoon spent weeks holed up in his compound in January, protected by members of the Presidential Security Service who had remained loyal to him. And the US Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth shared details of a March attack on Yemen's Iran-aligned Houthis in a message group on the social media platform Signal. Reported by the New York Times on Sunday, the group included his wife, brother and personal lawyer, which has raised questions about Secretary Hegseth's use of an unclassified messaging system to share highly sensitive security details. Well, the New York Times reported that Hegseth shared flight schedules for the March 15th strikes in a Signal chat that included close personal contacts. The information mirrors details previously leaked in a separate chat that mistakenly included the Atlantic's editor-in-chief. Hegseth's wife has also reportedly attended meetings with foreign military officials. The leak investigation has led to the removal of advisor Dan Caldwell from the Pentagon and placed two other officials on administrative leave. And moving on, the Israeli military has concluded an investigation into the killing of 15 Palestinian emergency responders in Gaza, citing professional failures and breaches of orders. Well, a field commander will be dismissed and a deputy commander reprimanded for their roles in the incident. The military claims soldiers mistakenly believed they faced a threat from enemy forces, but the Palestine Red Crescent has disputed the findings, calling them full of lies. The incident occurred on 23rd of March when medics and rescue workers responded to distress calls near Rafah, sparking international condemnation and concerns about a possible war crimes. Also, Israel's government cancelled the visas for 27 French left-wing lawmakers and local officials 2 days before they were to start a visit to Israel and the Palestinian territories. The action came only days after Israel stopped 2 British members of parliament from the governing Labour Party from entering the country. It also came amidst diplomatic tensions after President Emmanuel Macron said France would soon recognize a Palestinian state. Macron has in turn sought to pressure Netanyahu over conditions in Gaza amid the Israel-Hamas war. Israel's Interior Ministry said visas for the 27 had been cancelled under a law that allows authorities to ban people who could act against the state of Israel. And tension between US and Yemen have further escalated after the new US airstrikes on the Yemeni capital Sana'a killed at least 12 people and wounded 30. The US military has been carrying out almost daily attacks for the past month, saying it was targeting the Iran-backed Houthi terrorists to stop attacks on international shipping in the Gulf. Also, US strikes on the Ras Issa oil port on Thursday killed at least 80 people and injured 150. The Houthis said they started missile attacks in solidarity with Hamas. US airstrikes started in January 2024 but have been stepped up since President Donald Trump took office this year. And El Salvador President Nayib Bukele proposed sending 252 Venezuelans deported from the U.S. and imprisoned in his country to Venezuela in exchange for taking political prisoners held by Venezuela. The Salvadoran leader did not say whether the prisoners would be incarcerated again upon an exchange. Bukele also mentioned nearly 50 detainees of other nationalities, including U.S., German and French citizens as part of the proposed exchange. Last month, the administration of President Donald Trump deported at least 200 Venezuelans from the United States to El Salvador, accusing them of being members of the criminal gang. And the challenges and lives of penguins around the world are brought to life in Secrets of the Penguins. The three-part series, filmed over 2 years, explores the lives of penguins across 18 species, from Antarctica to the Galapagos. And still to come on DD India News Hour. Dollar weakens on concerns about Fed's independence under Trump. India's Arya Bose and Rudraksh Patel clinch silver medal at ISSF World Cup in Lima, capital of Peru. And in IPL, Kolkata Knight Riders to face Gujarat Titans.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the economic brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lepakshi Kuraran. Moving on to some business news now. The dollar tumbled on Monday as investor confidence in the U.S. economy took another hit over President Donald Trump's plans to shake up the Federal Reserve, which would throw into question the independence of the central bank. Well, White House economic advisor Kevin Hegseth said on Friday that the president and his team were continuing to study whether they could fire Fed Chair Jerome Powell just a day after Trump said Powell's termination cannot come fast enough, as he called for the Fed to cut interest rates. The dollar sank to a 3-year low against the euro, hit a 7-month true on a yen and slid 0.9% in against the Swiss franc early in the Asian session on Monday, as an ongoing crisis of confidence in the greenback continued to play out. And Asian markets showed a mixed performance on Monday. Japan's Nikkei index opened slightly lower despite rising 1% on Friday to its best week in 3 months. In contrast, South Korea's Kospi and China's Shanghai Stock Exchange opened higher, with investors optimistic about potential trade deals following U.S. President Donald Trump's signals of easing the tariff tensions. And in India, gold hit a fresh record high of 96,747 rupees per 10 grams in early deals on Monday, amid persisting concerns over the economic impact of the ongoing trade war. The dollar's weakness against its peers also supported gold prices. International spot gold prices hit a record high of $3,384 during the session, as investors continued rushing for safe haven assets on mounting concerns over the escalating US-China trade war. The dollar's weakness is also a key factor supporting gold prices. Gold is priced in dollars. When the US currency weakens, gold is cheaper in other currencies, enhancing its demand. Well, you're watching DD India News. Our time now for some sports news. India's Arya Bose and Rudraksh Patel clinched a silver medal in the 10-meter air rifle mixed team event at the ISSF World Cup in Lima, capital of Peru. The Indian pair lost a tightly contested final 11-17 to the Norwegian duo of John Herman Hegg and Jeanette Dustad on Sunday, settling for a well-fought silver. Well, earlier, Rudraksh Patil had endured a forgettable outing in the individual event. Despite qualifying in third place, the former world champion was eliminated early after an error in the final. The 20-year-old bounced back strongly in the team event alongside Arya Bose to deliver another medal for India. And Kolkata Knight Riders will lock horns with Gujarat Titans in the Indian Premier League in Kolkata on Monday. The defending champions needed to focus on their batting. The likes of Ajinkya Rahane, Quinton de Nock, Venkatesh Iyer and Ankrish Raghuvanshi have been inconsistent. The form of Rinku Singh and Andre Russell are a concern. The bowlers have been sensational. Vaibhav Arora, Varun Chakravarti and Sunil Narine are in top-notch form. Also, on the other hand, the table toppers, Gujarat Titans, have been excellent. The top three batters, Shubman Gill, Sai Sudarshan and Jos Buttler, have been spectacular. Among the bowlers, Prasidh Krishna has been the most consistent, while Mohammad Siraj and Sai Kishore have been impactful. Well, Liverpool will have to wait for a few more days to be crowned Premier League champions despite a 1-0 victory at Leicester. Trent Alexander-Arnold came off the bench to score Liverpool's winner and restore their 13-point lead at the top with 5 games left. While Liverpool can almost taste a record equaling 20th English crown, Leicester City's defeat confirmed their relegation back to the championship after just one season. Also, the Midlands club has now been relegated from England's top flight a record 13 times. Liverpool could seal the title if they beat Tottenham Hotspur at home on Sunday. All right, that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world in the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. Well, we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Lipakshi Khurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.